Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Yo, what's going on, travelers? We are here for another episode of the Success Journey Show. And man, we have another guest that's here with us today. Man, we're going to jump right into it today with this guest. And man, hear his story from the beginning to midpoint to where he is now. And we know that you guys are going to be captivated by this story. So, man, we'll get the commercial on the back end. We'll get all that stuff on the back end. We really just want to really sit down and let you hear this story today, man. It's going to change your life. And we're just so appreciative of our brother Paul for joining us today and just sharing his story. Paul, what's going on, bro? How you doing today, man?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. Blessed, man. Doing well. Blessed. Man, Paul, man, we want to thank you so much for being on the show with us. Why don't you just share with our listeners, we call them travelers around the world, just a little bit about yourself.
Well, how you doing, travelers? You know, my name is Paul, and right now I just turned 40, June 26th. So still young in spirit, you know, and still got a lot of life ahead of me. Born and raised in Racine, Wisconsin. My father was military, so we traveled around a lot. Moved different places. I've spent the majority of my life in Texas, Dallas, Texas. Shout out to Dallas. And but I've lived in Alabama. I've been through the Carolinas. I've lived in Germany. So my father's military career took me, you know, places. And then later on in life, started driving trucks. So I've been to a lot of different states and a lot of different places I never would have been had it not been for that. So mother is from India. Father's from Oakland, California. I have 3 brothers, no sisters. One child, he'll be 11. And I got one on the way. He'll be born this month. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, congrats, man. Congrats.
Yeah. Other than that, you know, I'm a very simple person. Have lived a roller coaster lifestyle like most of us have, you know, so I don't feel that my story is any more exotic or any less has the lackluster that a lot of other people's story has, but it is my story. So, you know, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
For sure,
yes,
man.
Sir.
Yo, man, the thing that intrigued me the most in it, and just even being close to just military families, and one of my best friends is in the military. So see, it's like, you know, you know, from the siblings and from the child's end, like you said, you experienced a lot of different areas traveling based off of your father being in the military. Tell us about that experience and looking in retrospect now, like what you feel it provided for you, whether in perspective or if you felt that, you know, some people are like, oh, I want stability. You know, I should have been in one location instead of traveling around. Tell us how that impacted you in your life.
Okay, Ricky. Well, you know, one of the hardest things people don't understand about any child doesn't have, as you said, stability, is those connections that you make as a child in school. You know, I don't have that story where I grew up with a best friend from middle school, and now here it is, we're still kicking it and laughing because, you know, my time in school was in and out of schools, you know, depending on what my father's orders were. So, you know, I might, you know, go to a school for 2 or 3 years and then have to, you know, transfer or whatnot. I don't want to use it as an excuse, but I believe it led to some of my behavior in school. You know, I was a very, you know, mischievous young man.
To put it politely.
Yeah, just put it mildly, you know. And a lot of times, you know, as I got older, you know, I used to run into people who would tell me about, oh yeah, that's been my best friend since the 3rd grade and stuff. And I wasn't able to relate to that. So that was one of the negative aspects of it. But one of the positive aspects that I can say was it gave me a foundation outside of my neighborhood, my city, my state, my country. You know, a lot of people don't have the ability to say, well, I've actually been to France and I've been to Paris on the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. These are things they saw in movies, TVs, read in books. but they hadn't had that firsthand experience. And I believe that the diversity in the culture that it gave me broadened my horizons to let me be able to look outside the box and see things from different perspectives. And it gave me the ability to want to look past what I could just see with my eyes, because I knew that there were other things out there and I had experienced it firsthand. And that was only something afforded because of my father's military career. So at the end of the day, you know, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't change it. You know, yeah, it would have been nice to have those valued connections and, you know, that stability of being in one place for a long time. But I believe that the impact that traveling had and moving around and learning different people and different cultures far exceeded, you know, and put me in a place with the potential to understand that things are bigger than what I see around me, you know. So the culture of the military, it's not as, you know, from what I saw as a child and not actively being enlisted in the military, I didn't experience racism until my father retired. You know, one thing my father used to tell me all the time is, we see green, you know, or their fatigues, you know, were green. Yeah, I used to think green. But in that, because when you're out there on the battlefield, you know what I'm saying, you can't have somebody hating you for the color of your skin or your religion or something, you know, when you're out there fighting for each other and making sure that you have each other's back. So I didn't start experiencing a lot of prejudice and racism and biasness until my father retired in 1996.
That's a very, you know, I'm military, so 20 years in November, and
congratulations.
Thank you. You're absolutely correct when it comes to people from all different walks of life. Yeah, I had some guys in the military tell me, "Yo, Madden, you're the first Black person that I ever met physically, or the only time I met a Black person was when I was in the military. Where I am, there's no Black people, that so forth." But their minds shift because you say all they see is green, or and you're a unit, and you're going to execute on a mission and come back. So the children, definitely, they're on base. Everybody's running around. Everybody's playing with each other. Everybody's doing everything. Whatever. If your father got you involved in sports, you're playing sports with all the other kids. When you go in the commissary, when you go anywhere, there's movie theaters on base. What people got to understand is that a military life, you can actually live on the base and never come off the base, and you'll have everything, depending on how big the base is.
I don't eat Burger King anymore because of that. Because when we were stationed in Redstone Arsenal, that was only food place, and I ate it every day. And now I don't want to see another Burger King.
All right, hey Burger King, you're not getting this man to pay nothing.
I'm through.
Oh man.
Yeah. Hey, you come with some high recommendations, Paul. Well, high recommendations. My man Donovan said, "Yo, you got to get Paul on this show, because the way how Paul's outlook on life is something that is just so contagious." And he said, when you sit down and you talk to him, you could go through different subjects. So you're well versed in every subject. And he said, it's a brother that you just want to sit down, soak up the game, give the game, whatever the situation is. And, you know, we just had to have you on because, you know, if Donovan said, you know, it's funny, you made it on the show before Donovan.
Yeah, see, the thing with Donovan is I owe him some money, and he's hoping y'all pay me so that he can get it. You know, there's not many men that I found in my life travels that I actually can say I looked up to as a mentor, but I have to say Donovan's one of them. He's always been that voice of reason, cool, calm, collected. He's very compassionate. He's very driven towards what he believes in. He's not your orthodox Christian though. He will say something, hey, I don't believe in that, or that's not how I see it. Or, you know, when you start talking about tithing with him, he goes onto a whole nother platform about how, you know, the storehouse was, and he will break you off. The man is intelligent, he's knowledgeable, and you don't have to worry about him giving you answers just to make him sound like he knows what he's talking about. If he don't know, he'll say, I don't know, but let's go find out. So, I respect that brother to the most. Shout out to Donovan Genius, you know what I'm saying? That's my guy. I hate that he ain't driving trucks no more. He wasn't the greatest truck driver, but he was dedicated work. Work he's in now might be more better suited for him. So, I watch out for all those viruses he's about to try to create and upload to your computers. But now Donovan's a good dude. I appreciate it. Kudos, because coming from him, that's a great honor.
Yeah, man. Had to get you on, even though like we're saying in the beginning before we start, think you were ducking me for a while. I was hitting you up. I sent you the link, everything, and you didn't. I was like, man, this brother don't want to come on my show.
Hey, this must be the part that's gonna get edited out, right?
Nah, man, we can't edit the first 15 minutes, man. That's it.
Just to kind of defend myself quickly, like I told you, I've never done anything like this. I've never been on any type of public platform. I like to consider myself a pretty private and person, and just don't think that there's nothing that interesting about me to be sharing with everybody. When there's so much more going on in the world. So, like I said, after Donovan kind of persuaded me on several occasions that hey, if anything, he hit me with the guilt. He said, this could possibly help some other young brother or sister or somebody that needs to hear this. That might be a message just for him. I'm like, really, you gonna hit me with that, Donnie?
Yeah.
So, and after meeting Marlon and speaking with Marlon on a few occasions, and then he steady, man, I don't want to hear that. You ain't trying to get on. I said, you know what? I like a challenge. So guess what? Go on, shoot it to me. So now Marlon took 6 months to send me the invitation, after. So, but we're here. That's all that matters, is we made it.
Yes, sir. Man. So you said you're not interested. Your story's not interested, but there's a portion of your story. So as a kid, after high school, what was your aspirations? What was your goals? What did you have in mind? Your dad's in the military. He's probably looking at you like, hey, you gonna join? Some fathers in the military are like, hey, don't join. Or they could say, go join the Air Force because it's a lot easier, or whatever the situation is. But what was your aspirations growing up after high school?
So I aspired to follow in my father's footsteps. That was my hero. R.I.P. My father just passed away about 2.5 weeks ago.
Man, sorry to hear about that, man.
Condolence.
Yeah, Donovan told us, and he told us you were the man that was level-headed, did what you had to do, and made all the proceedings fly through smooth. So kudos to you, and our condolences to you and your family, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I like to believe I'm a realist. I'm in touch with life and world. And I understand that, God has a process, that there's a beginning and an end, an alpha and omega to everything, So for us to believe that, we found the eternal potion for everlasting life, that's not here. And if it is, the government's hiding it. That's a whole nother story, though, another show, but
yes, sir.
But yeah, he lived he would have been 76 on the 16th, which was 2 days ago.
Wow.
And he lived a very fruitful life. He gave 30 years of his life to the Army. He did a lot of great things, and he impacted a lot of people. So, just like Martin Luther and Malcolm X and a lot of the other greats that have streets named after them and holidays, that man has left a legacy that will continue to live on through me, if no one else, but I did want to follow in his footsteps. He was my hero. My father could do no wrong. He knew the answers to everything in my mind, so I definitely wanted to go into the military. I had aspirations to want to be a police officer, believe it or not, just because I like the lights on the car. I want to turn the lights on and pull people over and then let them go. And pack a pistol legally, you know what I'm saying? But my father was the father that tried to discourage me from going into the military. He said, there was so many politics and so many things had changed that you couldn't be a soldier anymore, because of all the red tape. And, you couldn't, when he retired, he was a first sergeant. And so he used to say, you know, you couldn't even talk to your soldiers the way you needed to talk to soldiers anymore, because, you know, they would go turn you into your commanding officer and stuff. So he was, you know, with all the wars going on and things, I think as a father, parental figure, he just wanted to keep his child, you know, out of harm's way. You know what I'm saying? Me, I looked at the benefits. I looked at retirement benefits and, you know, benefits of being able to go on post. That was all I understood at that time was, or I go to the PX and not pay taxes, or, you know, I would always have access to this and that. And so he didn't want me to go in, but I probably was going to still go in. But tragically, right after my 15th birthday, my birthday's in June, August of 1997, I ended up getting into some stuff, and I ended up shooting somebody, killing somebody. I shot him 9 times in a self-defense situation. But of course, when you start getting into court proceedings and law and all that stuff, you know, they know how to make it look good so that they records can stay right. But yeah, I ended up committing a homicide and being sentenced to 17 calendar years in Texas Department of Criminal Justice, TDCJ. Wow. And so as a juvenile, you know, I went through the juvenile proceeding, but once they saw that I was competent to stand trial as an adult, they certified me as an adult. Went to adult proceedings, and they wanted to give me 85 years, but there was a lady on the jury. You know, this is God showing his favor, because that wasn't my path. You know, all of them it was an all-white jury. The only 2 black people that was in my jury pool were disqualified for whatever reasons the prosecution came up with to make sure that I didn't have a jury of my peers. The lady, one of the ladies that was on the jury, told my family afterwards, like, everybody in there had agreed to 85 years except for her. She said, because with the evidence she saw and everything that was explained to her, you know, this wasn't just a crime of a young man going out there taking somebody's life. You know, this was actually premeditated by, you know, in this case, who they call the victim, the deceased, and they tried to, you know, turn it around. But when she actually said, her reading the documents and listening to the court proceedings, she didn't feel like, you know, this was just a malice crime. This was me trying to defend myself in the best way that a 15-year-old can, you know, comprehend in their mind, you know, from the movies and the music and all the stuff that was out at the time, the environment, which, you know, being in military household, I didn't grow up in, you know, gang infested neighborhoods, and I was on military installations all my life. So she said that she told them that we'll be here forever, or a hung jury if they didn't do something different. So when they all came to the 17-year agreement, she said that she agreed to that because her understanding of the law at that time was whatever time they gave me, I would only have to do half of it. And if I was in there doing what I'm supposed to do, I would come home. That wasn't totally accurate, but that was how she came to the conclusion. She would agree to that because she said, well, if I had to do 8.5 years, you know, that would give me enough time to think about what I did, quote unquote, pay my debt to society, but I would still be young enough to come out and make a wholesome life, you know, versus giving me 85 years. Even if I did half of that, you know, life as I know would pretty much be over, you know what I'm saying? So that was how I ended up getting 17 years, and I ended up doing 12 and a half calendar of that, you know, before they released me. So came home on parole for approximately 5 years on parole, successfully discharged that in 2014, and been trying to live my life as normal as possible ever since.
Man, wow. You know what's crazy? And I know, Rick, I'm gonna let you go ahead. You know what's crazy is that how you know that somebody's very positive is you said in that moment, God showed you favor by letting that lady be on the jury, and that you would be that so that you didn't have to do the 85 years.
Yeah.
Some people would, you know, self-defense, they still would have been like, man, they give me just that's all they would harp on. Their whole life, they would be they're still committing crimes. Oh, if they didn't give, I went to prison only because somebody, but you're saying, okay, God showed me favor by only letting me do 17 years. I did 12 years and I'm out. and I have 5 years of parole and all that different stuff. Now, at 15, when you're going, your dad's military, well respected, you're going to court. Did you see what was the feeling going through your body? Because a lot of kids out here just feel like I could be real, and hey, if I got to go to prison and I got to go do a bid, I could go do a bid. You know how all the kids are thinking out here. What was going through your body? What were you thinking as a 15-year-old? And when you heard that 17 years, how did you receive that?
You want me to be completely honest with you, Mark?
Completely honest.
There you go.
So it didn't register.
Mm.
I didn't do 17 years. When I got that time, my father was a first sergeant, before he retired in 96. So we were living in Huntsville, Alabama, in Redstone Arsenal when he retired. And we chose to come back to Texas because of family connections and stuff. So he retired in 96. We got back to Texas in 97. After being in Texas for about 8 months is when all this happened. So he had only been retired less than a year. Whole time that we were in the service, my father was in the service, about the time I got out and off the porch, it didn't dawn on me. It didn't really resonate that I was about to do some time in prison. Because when you first, the intake process and everything you have to go through, you're sitting in the county jail, you're waiting, you're talking to all these people that had been and going back or whatever the case may be. So, and I was in a very, what you would consider nice county jail. We had an Atari in there. We used to have music, the chaplain would bring us BB and CC wine, and I can repeat every chorus in every chord because they brought in gospel music for us to listen to. So, we would gravitate towards the Black artists, you know what I'm saying, or whatever appealed to us the most. And we play it out, we had computers in our dorms and stuff like that. So it was a nice place. Now, I won't say I had a couple fights because I had got into trying to learn how to gamble and play cards. And, when that would go awry and, it would always be some kind of misunderstanding. So, I went through that phase, and then I actually got sent to the facility. And so I was the second youngest person to ever be certified as an adult and incarcerated in Texas. The one that was before me, his name was Billy Ray Dennis. I think he shot and killed his teacher. I don't know. I think it was on accident. I don't know the whole story. Don't quote me. But I just know that his teacher had supposedly succumbed to a gunshot wound from him, and he was given life in prison at the age of 14. And so I came right behind him with, certified at 15 for, some homicide. So, you go through the intake process. And so you're actually, it's almost like being deployed to a new country, if you want to try to relate. You're learning new languages, you're learning new culture, you're learning what to do and what not to do. So that kind of consumes a lot of your time as to stopping and thinking about, I'm going to be here. So I had been incarcerated probably, I'm going to say 3 years. It might have been 5. And I remember waking up and looking at out the bars and said, you know what? My dad ain't coming to get me. I'm really finna be here. Because this was the first time in my life that my father wasn't able to save me, whether it be with money, whether it be with his position in the military, because there was times that, it didn't have anything related to do, anything related to the military where his rank and influence didn't mean anything, but he had the money. So, all my life, I got out of any trouble I got into. This was the one time where he was powerless to do anything other than what the system said they were going to allow.
Wow.
So once that realization set in, I started, I had been in my trouble. My first 2 to 3 years was, establishing myself. And in there, you have to establish some type of what side you're going to be on, whether you're going to be predator or prey. That's just all it is to it. And, coming in there and people that's already been there, or they were in some type of similar facility. Because like what happens with most underage or teenage or juveniles is if they don't get certified as an adult, they get sent to the Texas Youth Commission, to TYC. And then they can stay there until they're 18. And then if at 18, they don't show any type of transition, or they don't show any type of rehabilitation, then they send them before a board to consider them being sent to adult prison at that age. So people, they're such bad actors in TYC, they get sent up, is what they call them, sent up to the prison. So, you had a lot of people in there that this wasn't new to them. And they look to prey on the people that are new to this, or young, or look very frail and fragile and can't protect themselves. You're going to do one or two things. You're going to pay for protection, or you're going to become somebody's girlfriend, or you're going to die. As simple as that. Those are pretty much the three options. You know what I'm saying? You can go to protective custody, but there's no such thing, because the law is, the officers aren't there. They're there trying to go home at night. They're there trying to protect their own lives. They're not going to jump in there and too much put their life on the line to save you. So, you have to come in there fully prepared, mentally, physically, and spiritually, to determine what am I going to do and how am I going to go about doing this so that I can survive to go home, And so at about year 5 is when I decided that it was time to stop playing games. I started, focusing on my education. I ended up taking all classes I got my GED since, I hadn't graduated high school. I hadn't even started high school when I got incarcerated initially. So as soon as I got into the system, I applied for the GED program and got my GED probably 4 months after I got to prison. Because like I said, school and education was something that came easy to me. So I never struggled in school. The only problems I had in school was getting in trouble about messing with girls, that and fighting. But other than that, I was pretty much straight A, B student. Because that was the only thing my father really harped on was, hey, look, go to school, get your education, do what you're supposed to do when it comes to those grades. And, anything you pretty much can want, I got you. That's our trade-off. So, academically, I never had problems. So went there, got my GED, and then, started, I did my little bad acting for the first few years. And then I got serious about, better education. I learned how to play chess. I fell in love with the game of chess. And that's how I occupied my time, reading books, playing chess, going to school. And then I had got a job as a computer automated drafting engineer, designing signs for the state of Texas. They don't pay you in Texas as an inmate. They pay you in credits, which they call good kind credits. So you didn't get, any type of monetary relief or anything for whatever you did, but it was a way to pass time. And, I was using it as an educational opportunity, because I'm looking at anything that I do here, how is it going to benefit me when I go home?
It out. Yeah.
So ended up getting my associate's degree in general studies, and then started working on my degree in computer science. Got released before I finished it, but there was a ups and downs. There was a roller coaster. Prison is nothing but a microcosm of the world we live in right now, free society, because everything that you do out here, you can do on some level in there,
Yeah.
And one thing that the difference between what they say inmate and a convict is, inmate is somebody that's just there. They're not really surviving. A convict finds ways to make their environment suitable to them. Big speakers out of cardboard boxes, paper, and, using copper wire out of the headphones they sell you for your radio, making ways to boil water by cutting the end of a light cord and sticking the raw ends in water, stuff that would be considered, absolutely ludicrous out here. That's a day-to-day life for a convict that's trying to survive and make the best of his situation. So, I started doing all that, went to school, fell in love with the game of chess, and, became a loner of some sort, in there, there is no centralized religion or way of thinking. In there, you have the opportunity to broaden your horizon, because you have so many different religions and so many different cultures and so many different ways of life in there. and you're open to explore all of them without consequence or any type of ridicule or persecution. So, that's another way that people in there expand and broaden their horizon, is because you can learn about Judaism. You can expand your knowledge of Christianity if you're a Christian. You can learn about Islam. You can learn about the Rosicrucians. You can learn about all these different religions and why they believe what they believe. And it's interesting, prison is just a plethora of information, good or bad, because you can come out of there a better criminal if that's what you choose to do, or you can come out of there to understand that this is not a place that you ever want to come back to. So take the tools and resources that are provided here and use them for good when you come, out of that situation. And so that's what a lot of us have done.
Wow.
Different individuals that I've encountered in there that have come out and started their own ministries. They've become big brothers in the Big Brother programs. Just did a lot to give back to their communities, based off of their circumstances and what they went through.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So man, transitioning out, man, we hear stories of people trying to get reacclimated to way of life, man. So if I did my math right, you went in around the 97 time frame, 12 years, you're not coming out until 2007, 2009, somewhere around there, right? Those are two different worlds, man. To that 97 and 2009, man. Like what was it like stepping
Internet
into
just start booming in 97.
Yeah.
Well, I had a cell phone. I was probably one of the youngest people in my neighborhood to have a cell phone. I had the Nokia with the wood grain front. It didn't have an address book. You still had to remember them phone numbers. But and people used to tell my dad he was crazy. He's like, why that boy? He don't need no phone at that age or whatever. He's like, that's my boy, and I want him. But outside of that, the first thing I did. So let me tell you a crazy. How my life and way God works and the way I've been blessed. So I came home. My birthday is June 26th. I came home initially June 24th, 2009. Okay. So I'm thinking, man, 2 days for my birthday. I've been gone all these years. It's time to turn up.
Yeah.
I get home June 24th. I got an ankle monitor on. So long story short, the ankle monitor was defective. Not realizing this until later, I put the pieces together, but the lady that was my initial parole officer, she didn't like me before I even got home because my father, she had to interview my parents where I was staying and make sure everything was suitable. And so she asked him what my mode of transportation was going to be. And he's like, well, I've got a 2005 Lincoln Navigator that's paid for. I'm going to give that to him. And she's like, that vehicle that's out front, but my dad kept his cars immaculate. Yeah. And it had 20-inch rims on it. They were shining. It was black on black. She's like, oh no, sir, I don't think you should give him that. That's too much for him. He said, hold on, man. You do your job and I'm gonna do mine. That's my son. I want him to have his own vehicle, and that's what it is. So she was kind of biased towards me because of that encounter from the words they go. So I get home on the 24th. So the 25th, I go out, I have to go see her. I went and reported, and she was like, well, what is your plans for the day? Because you need to be home by this time per your monitor schedule. Well, I'm going to go open a banking account. I'm going to get a cell phone, just do some basic normal stuff that people need to have to operate. She's like, okay, you can do that and then go home. So went to go get a banking account, needed my birth certificate. Well, we went back to the house to get the birth certificate. The monitor actually connected with the base station for the first time because that's the first time it had been activated when I left her office. And she calls and says, hey, y'all need to come back. Now, this is a 45-minute drive we just made. So my dad was like, for what? Well, I just need to see him. Get up there. The sheriffs are waiting for me. She's like, so now you need to tell me the truth. Did you try to take that ankle monitor off? I'm like, man, I've been incarcerated almost 13 calendar years. You think less than 24 hours of me being home? If I did tamper with it, do you think I would voluntarily come back up here? I'd be in Mexico somewhere. What's wrong with you? Yeah. She didn't want to hear it. Told him to take me away. So less than one day after being home for all that time, I'm back in jail. Sitting in the county.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sitting in the county jail looking like, how could this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this?
Wow.
So my father had to spend $3,000 on an attorney to go to a revocation hearing on my behalf to explain to these people, how crazy can y'all be to believe that this young man has just done all this time? And if he was going to take it off, why didn't he come? Why didn't he take it off and flee or what? So the revocation board agreed, and they released me on July 24th. So over a month exactly to the date, I was released again. So I call that my official release date because the little 30 days in between to, I was out for less than 24 hours. But, so that was another way that, because God, if I wasn't being shown favor, that could have went a whole nother direction.
Yeah. Because how much were they trying to give you based off that?
Well, it's not. So being that I still had 5 years on parole, if you get in trouble, I could have been sent back for those 5 years.
5 years.
They could have sent me back and said, well, we'll make you do another year, 2 years, whatever the case may be, if the revocation would have been upheld. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So another show of God's mercy and favor, because at the end of the day, I was shocked. I was hurt, stunned, everything, and more so my parents couldn't believe this. They had lost their baby for all those years. And I ate one meal at home and got on the computer. The first thing I did was went to Facebook. I said, man, I've been hearing about this Facebook and this MoCo. Let me go see what this stuff is about, So fast forward, I get out July 24th and, I start, trying to pick up the pieces to life. I don't know where to start. I was a kid when I went in, and now I'm supposed to be, quote unquote, according to my age, an adult, but I don't know how to operate as an adult in this society. But, I went and got my driver's license, got my job, like I told you. And, I was working at a call center. I had found a job less than 24 hours after reporting to my parole officer. I say the first time out, but let's say the second time for clarity. There was a call center around the corner from where I reported. They said had a full hire sign out. I went, knocked on the door, and they gave me a job, no questions asked. And I just wanted to feel independence on some level, because the money, it wasn't enough to pay for gas for that big old Navigator to go back and forth, but it made me feel good, like I was doing something for myself. And so, that was a struggle in itself, learning to acclimate with life, learning how, they didn't have Starbucks and none of that stuff, when I was incarcerated. The internet was obsolete in people's homes. Yeah. Like I said, you weren't dialing area codes before the number. You just dialing them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. That happened like
Southwestern Bell was still around. It wasn't even around when I got out of none of that. So, so I mean, nobody's wearing pages no more. So it was a big culture shock for me. The music, the genre of music was different.
Completely different.
I had missed so many movies, and it was just like. And people used to tell me, don't get out there and try to catch up. You're going to get yourself in trouble trying to make up for lost time. Just do what you need to do and move forward from that point forward. So, started attending my family's church home and just, trying to figure out where I wanted to go. So I had a good friend named Chris Brewster. He was still incarcerated, and he was writing me, and he said, hey, can you do me a favor? Look into this trucking program where they'll train you for free through the Texas workforce. So while I'm looking into this to him, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to be looking into getting my CDL, So I told my dad, I was like, I really want to try to get my CDL. I said, I don't think they'll be too biased against truck drivers having felony because, if I think back to all the movies I had watched, you had big people, big Caucasian dudes, big black guys, tattoos, long hair. It looked like they was all felons. So I said, that could be perfect for me.
Yeah.
So I started looking into that. I, found a trucking school in Dallas. It was a 4-week program. They guaranteed me job placement after graduation. My dad was like, hey man, I'm all for you. So they wanted I think it was $5,000 for the cuts. He went ahead and he paid the money. And I started school November 2009. And I graduated with my CDL January 9th, 2010. And of course, then it was like, oh, well, with your background, it's going to be hard to place you. That's not what you all told me when I came here. But guess what? God will provide. Don't even worry about it. So started looking around, calling, filling out applications. You know, nobody really wanted to take a chance with me, not only having a background, but not having any experience. So God placed this guy in my path named Stacy Williams. He owns Williams Communications and Associates Trucking Company right now. He's out here doing really well for himself in the Dallas, Texas area. And he had a similar situation where he had a background and no experience, but he had got some Asian people in California to give him a chance. I told him I wasn't comfortable enough with the truck at the time. So he was like, I'm going to come pick you up from Dallas and I'll let you ride around with me for 2 or 3 weeks and get all the experience you need. And then I'll take you to my people. Yeah. So that's what I did. He met me at the truck stop on Bonneview and I-20. And I've never looked back. You know, I have to give him his props for that, you know what I'm saying? Because once again, that was another vessel that God placed in my life to keep me on the path that I needed to be on. So I went out there, he let me grind his gears and practice backing up until I felt confident enough to like, you know, hey, go on and take me to them people and let me show them what I can do. So started driving in 2010. I did a bunch of different type of driving. I've done, you know, rail yard container work. I've contracted with Mayflower and moved people from coast to coast. Done, you know, UPS work with the double and triple trailers. But then around 2015, I started, you know, understanding more about the business. And I was like, well, why am I continuing to do the same work for someone else for less money when I could buy my own equipment and do the same work, but with more incentive? So I started looking into purchasing my own truck. So I purchased my own truck. I did a lease purchase program in 2015. Didn't know any better, but I felt empowered. I felt like this is the right course. I'm becoming my own person, my own, you know, I'm in charge. Rewinding back, I have to give props to my dad too. He started a vending machine company for me when I was in prison. So when I came home, I actually had what it was called Sweet Relief Vending. We had a van, we had 6 machines placed, and he taught me the business. He taught me how to fix machines, how to collect the money, how to restock the product. But my vision was too short. My mentality was not right. It wasn't mature enough to understand the potential. So, you know, I did it, but I was like, you know, Dad, for me, this just ain't enough money. You know, a couple $100 out of these machines, some quarters. I didn't see the potential for going ahead and establishing a foundation with that and expanding, you know, to something greater. And he was okay with that. He was like, okay, son, you know, it was just something for you to have your own. I mean, I really want to drive these trucks. So that's after, you know, while I was doing the call center and the machines, then I went into driving trucks, you know. So got my first truck and did that with Mayflower for a while. But, you know, still not understanding the business in totality and not understanding all the cost analysis and all the overhead and the risk. I'm like, you know, what's going wrong? Well, then I realized that paying $800 a week for a truck because you're leasing it 0 down, you know, no credit. Why don't I go ahead and save up enough money to put down at a lot and buy a truck that'll only cost me $800 a month, you know, $3,200 a month. For at least, you know, I'm gonna end up paying $270,000 for a truck that's only worth $120,000 off the lot. But that's one of the cycles that they put you in when you don't know any better, and they just flash the 0 down, no credit check, walk away lease. When they throw those in your face, a lot of people say, okay, that's attainable for me, but it comes at a cost down the line if you're not looking ahead, you know. But again, God blessed me to give me the opportunity not only to do that, but before I had invested too much in that, to see this isn't what you're supposed to be doing, but this is just to get you on the right path, to give you some more experience and knowledge in what you should be doing. So 2017, I bought my own truck, you know, off the lot, and I was very proud of that. And I started my own trucking company in 2018. You know, I have my own motor carrier number because with trucking, for those that don't know, you can have an established business, but you can't. That's not considered your trucking company. Your official trucking company for hire comes when you get a motor carrier number and a U.S. Department of Transportation number. Then you are a carrier that you can actually lease people on or run freight for profit. So I established Ludlow Logistics in 2018. And it's just been, bountiful since then, as far as the experiences and the people and the knowledge and, the opportunities in driving. So I must say that, God has been very good. I always have to give him the glory. And then the people that he's placed in my past to make sure that I either see danger coming or I'm warned of danger that is coming.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Rick, I'll expressing this, travelers, while we're off the camera. There's a lot of people that never been incarcerated, didn't have no problems in their life. Yes, they've been in a bad situation, but they don't have what you have in terms of the knowledge. First of all, I knew that you did some kind of schooling in prison. You're a very eloquent guy. You see what I'm saying? You're very articulate. You could express yourself very well, and then the business acumen. How learning about the business? I know is trial. Like now you could probably give somebody some consultation of what's the first thing to do, the second thing to do, the third thing to do, and you could take somebody from soup to nuts about what they need to do in order to establish a business, paying your taxes, right? Because hey, if they're looking for you, don't I don't know you.
Hey, my name is Paul Johnson.
Yeah, you're gonna say, right? What's your name? Jerry? Is your name Jerry again? Right?
Yeah, man. So kudos to you, man, because I tell people it's not. I told somebody else this on our show. Just because there's something written on those pages before, that don't mean that's the story all the way through.
Yeah.
And I love. This is inspiring, and I hope there's people listening to this. I hope this is getting into those boys. And I don't know, that, well, in jail now, they have all sorts of devices. And I'm hoping somebody in jail is hearing this and they're hearing your story. And if they're doing stupidness in jail or they're about to come out to jail and start worrying about stuff, and to look at the time frame. You came out in 2009, and it wasn't until 2018 that you owned your own truck and you had your established company. So that everything takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. And not to rush it, just like you said, don't try to make up for lost time, because when you try to cut the corners, you can end up back where you don't want to end up. Rick, I don't want to hog it, man. This is
man. This was phenomenal, man. I really appreciate you sharing this story with us in this journey. What I hear from you on the back end is where you are now. Marlon did a good job kind of summarizing it for us, but just, I feel your presence. I feel your presence of being present in this moment right now, regardless of the past. And you haven't even talked about what you're trying to do in the future, what you're trying to grow to, and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know if that's even aspirational, whatever that is, but just what you've shared so far, it just brings us through your present moment right now, and being able to capture all your experiences from the past, shaping who you are right now, but not necessarily defining who you are right now, and then building something that, and we're not even going depth, like Marlon said, about what the business looks like for the trucking, but there's a lot of people that try to start trucking businesses that have failed, right? There's a lot of people that have gone out there and, they just couldn't find a way to make it work for them. And it says something about yourself to be able to find that sweet spot. I'm not saying you didn't have struggles doing it. Not saying that you didn't have times where, it was like, man, why am I doing this? I need to go find something else, right? But man, I really appreciate your story. And I wasn't going to ask this question because I was going to like kind of just sum it up, but I really, something's pressing me to ask this question to you as a question that we ask most of our guests towards the end is, as you look back now and say you're looking back at that 15-year-old kid that wasn't even pretty much recognizing or realizing the current circumstance that he was in terms of being sentenced to go to jail, right? If you had like 60 seconds to go back and just grab them real quick and just knowing what you know now and your experience now, what would you have said to that 15-year-old young you before he went right after that sentence, that verdict came through?
Wow, that's deep. That's deep. So right after the verdict came through, I had 60 seconds to grab him after, the events. Because I know exactly what I tell him pre the events. But
Yeah.
I would basically just make sure, and honestly, if I'm thinking about it, I would probably tell him, just keep your head and know that this is not the end. Better prepare yourself for what's to come, stay prayed up and make sure that you go in here. You take everything that you can take from this place that's positive and leave anything negative for those that want to be there and enjoying that negativity. Because like I said, had I to use my first 5 years more constructively, I believe, I think God has a plan and he worked his plan the way, but we have the ability to, we have free will. So we can't buck that Holy Spirit when we feel that essence inside of us telling us, what direction we're supposed to go. But I would definitely tell that younger me to, stay faithful, stay devout, and to know that you have a bigger purpose. So don't let this deter you. Don't let this stray you from the path. Just go in there and do what you're supposed to do so that you can take those tools and resources back where you're coming, because I knew there was no doubt in my mind that I was coming home, and I was coming home in one piece. I watched a lot of people go in there and perish. I saw dudes in there commit suicide, because they couldn't take the pressure. I saw dudes in there that would run in the fields because they knew they were going to shoot them. You know what I'm saying? I've seen people in there raped, against their will. It's just, I'm just so thankful that I was blessed with the mental fortitude, because you have a lot of people that go in there and it's not even the physical that breaks them down. It's the mental. Take a 15-year-old adolescent, because I was still an adolescent. I still didn't know up from down. And you throw them in that environment with nothing but killers, drug dealers, rapists, people that are supposed to be considered the worst of the worst, which I don't feel like I was the worst of the worst. So there's many other people in there that had very good intention. You had people in there that were innocent of their crime, but they were caught up in the system. And you had people in there that God needed to sit them down and make them focus, and get them out of there. So there's not much I would have changed about my time. I didn't have a hard time. I always had money on my commissary. There was riots, there was knives from, other races having racial, all of that. But at the end of the day, the bubble of God, the shield of protection was with me. I ain't never been stabbed. I've never been hurt and sent to the infirmary. My parents never got that distress phone call that something was going wrong or had happened to me. I always was fed. I was always warm, so my conditions, like I said, that's why I say I didn't feel my story was anything more spectacular than the next person, because you've had so many people that's encountered these situations and been through what I've been through on different levels. Everyone didn't just come out on the other end the same way and have all of the same support I had and the same opportunities. But I will say that I've made some opportunities for myself. And at this point in my life, I believe that, with my family and with God by my side, there's nothing that I can't do. There's skies. I'm definitely at the point in my life now where, I've started looking into real estate, buying land, Airbnbs, container homes. I started a private security firm, Level 5 Security Services, where we do, private events and parties, and I never wanted to have all my eggs in one basket. So the more wealth I acquire, the more I try to give back, and the more I try to do to make sure that not only is my family going to always be in a position to where they can do the things they need to do without worrying about finances, but to also prove to myself that even though I left, some decisions on the table that I should have tried those instead of the other ones, I can still make the very best of what's, of life, and what God has given me. So
yeah.
Hope I answered your question, but that was one that I wasn't going to give you one off the hip that quick. So, that was deep. I'll still be thinking about that question next week.
Yeah. I love it. With Travelers, man, we come to the end, man. And honestly, I'm stopping this short, knowing that there's so much more we can pull out of this conversation, man.
Part two. We'll do a part two.
We'll definitely do a part two.
We have to.
It got to be. I think our travelers are going to ask for a part two. Because I know they're going to want to understand how you navigate. Say it again, Rick.
I said, if they haven't asked yet, then go ahead and ask now, since Marlon said it.
Yep. Go ahead and ask for a part. I'm asking for a part two.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, man, we thank you, Paul, for just sharing your story, man. We're so grateful and appreciative of sharing your time with us today, or this evening. But all of our travelers that are out there, listen, man, you know where to find us, successjourneyshow.com, where you can find more inspirational stories, more stories of behind the scenes journeys of people walking through different paths of life. I don't know where you are right now. You could be in your car, you can be in your house, you could be in the gym. I don't know where it is, but if these stories have impacted your life in some way, why don't you share it with someone or leave a review on any podcast platform, or leave a comment on YouTube. Man, we're here for you. We keep coming every week because we love you and we're on a journey, and we want to make sure that we're traveling with you through yours. So as we go through this, if you have anything, reach out to us. We're always here at the Success Journey Success Journey Podcast at gmail.com, or info@the Success Journey Show. We have a lot of emails now. I'll give you those too. Reach out to us, and we will get back to you. So thank you so much. We'll see you next week at the same time on the Success Journey Show. Everyone have a good one. Peace.
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.